It was a rainy evening, and the little restaurant at the corner of the busy street was quieter than usual. The lights inside gave a warm glow against the cold, wet streets outside. The waitress wiped down a table near the window, her hands shaking slightly from fatigue. She had worked back-to-back shifts for days, and her feet ached from standing so long. Money was tight, and she was down to her last $10, which she had planned to use for dinner and bus fare home. Her stomach growled quietly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since morning. The door chimed as a man stepped in, shaking off the rain from his coat. He was dressed in a sharp suit and had an air of importance about him, but his eyes told a story of worry and exhaustion. He looked around nervously, as if he didn't belong in such a small place. The waitress noticed him immediately. Most people his age and appearance would have walked past a humble restaurant like this, but he had come inside and now hesitated near the counter. She approached him with a gentle smile. "Hello, sir. Can I get you something to eat?" she asked, trying to sound cheerful despite her tiredness. He nodded, clearly grateful to have someone speak kindly to him. He looked around, then whispered, "I'm a bit short on cash. I forgot my wallet." Her heart sank for a moment. She barely had anything to her name, and helping him would mean going hungry herself. She glanced down at the $10 in her pocket, thinking about the choice she had to make. Then she noticed the look on his face. A mix of embarrassment and relief. Something inside her shifted. Without thinking too much, she said, "Don't worry about it. Sit anywhere you like. I'll take care of it." His eyes widened in surprise. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. She nodded, giving him a reassuring smile. She returned to the kitchen and quickly prepared a simple meal, not wanting to make him wait. While cooking, she felt a strange warmth in her chest, knowing she was doing the right thing, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort. When she brought the plate to his table, he looked genuinely touched. "You didn't have to do this," he said, his voice low but filled with emotion. She shrugged slightly, trying to hide her own worry about the money. "It's no problem. Everyone needs a little help sometimes," she replied. He began eating slowly, savoring each bite as if it was the first real meal he had had in days. She noticed the exhaustion on his face and how tense his shoulders were. He wasn't just hungry for food, he was tired from something deeper. She cleared the tables around him quietly, giving him space and time to eat without interruption. As she worked, she couldn't help but steal glances at him, wondering what kind of life he had and why he looked so weary. After he finished, he reached for his coat. "I still don't have any money," he said apologetically. She smiled again, feeling a little embarrassed by his gratitude. "Really, it's okay. Go home, take care of yourself," she said. He hesitated, then nodded, looking at her with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "Thank you," he said quietly, and stepped out into the rain. The waitress stood by the door for a moment, watching him disappear into the night. Her hands were wet from the dishes and her stomach still ached, but she didn't feel regret. Something about helping him, even with her own last $10, felt right. She went back to the counter, counting her remaining money, realizing she would have to go without dinner tonight. But she smiled anyway, feeling a small sense of pride in her choice. The next few minutes were quiet. She cleaned the restaurant, rearranged chairs, and made sure everything was in order for the night. Her coworkers had left early, tired from their own shifts, leaving her alone in the dimly lit space. The rain outside continued, tapping against the windows like a soft drum. She sat down for a brief moment, holding her empty stomach, thinking about the man in the suit. There was something about him that didn't fit with the place he had come from. Something human, vulnerable, and real. She wondered if he had someone waiting for him, or if he was alone. The thought made her heart ache just a little. As she stood to finish her shift, she noticed a small folded piece of paper on one of the tables. It was simple, with a few lines scribbled in careful handwriting. "Your kindness will not be forgotten. Thank you for helping me when I needed it most." She looked around, but the man was gone. A warm feeling spread through her, stronger than the hunger pangs she felt. It was a simple note, but it carried a weight she hadn't expected. The night passed slowly, the restaurant finally empty, leaving her to lock the doors and step out into the cool air. She walked the familiar route home, her shoes squelching in the wet streets. Her stomach still grumbled, but she felt something more important, a sense of connection to another human being. In that small act, she realized that even though her life was difficult, she could make a difference. She could touch someone's life in a meaningful way, even if it cost her a little sacrifice. As she reached her small apartment, she thought about the man and the note. Who was he really? Why had he been so downcast and lost? She didn't know, and she wasn't sure she would ever find out. But it didn't matter. That one evening, one choice, one simple act of kindness had changed the night for both of them. She set her last $10 on the counter, not for dinner, but as a reminder that sometimes giving is more powerful than keeping. She fell asleep that night with a lightness in her heart, a feeling that tomorrow could be different. She didn't know it yet, but the man she had helped carried her kindness with him into a world of people who could do incredible things. And though she didn't know it at the time, her small act was about to ripple in ways she could never imagine. The next morning, the waitress woke up to a quiet apartment. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the pale sunlight. She stretched and tried to shake off the tiredness from the night before. Even though she had gone without food, her mind was buzzing with thoughts about the man she had helped. She had replayed his face in her mind countless times, remembering the gratitude in his eyes and the way he had seemed completely exhausted, carrying more than just physical hunger. She didn't know why he had come to her restaurant or what his story was, but something about him had left a deep impression. She got ready for another day at work, tying her worn apron around her waist and slipping into her shoes that had long seen better days. As she stepped outside, the fresh air felt clean and new. The streets were slowly coming to life with people heading to work, children running to school, and shopkeepers opening their small stores. She walked toward the restaurant, thinking about the events of last night and hoping the day would go smoothly. Inside the restaurant, the usual morning rush was beginning. Customers came in for breakfast, newspapers in hand, talking quietly about their day. She moved efficiently, taking orders and serving plates, keeping a smile on her face even as her body ached from the previous long day. She couldn't help but think about the man in the suit. Something about him felt different from the others she served. He seemed tired in a way that went beyond just physical exhaustion, and she found herself wondering what kind of life he led. Meanwhile, across the city, the man she had helped was sitting in a quiet office, staring out the window at the busy streets below. His mind kept returning to her act of kindness. In a world where most people were focused on themselves, she had given without expecting anything in return. She had taken a small risk to help a stranger, and that act had touched him deeply. He couldn't stop thinking about how selfless she had been, giving the last bit she had, even when she needed it herself. He picked up his phone and called a few close friends, people he trusted and knew had a strong sense of generosity. "I need your help," he said. "I met someone last night who showed me something rare. I want to do something big, something life-changing, but I need your support." His friends listened carefully as he explained the situation, describing the waitress's courage, her kindness, and her willingness to help even when she had nothing to give. They were intrigued and immediately wanted to know more. Back at the restaurant, the waitress continued her shift, serving meals and refilling coffee cups. She kept checking the door every now and then, half expecting him to walk in again. Hours passed, and nothing happened. She sighed quietly, telling herself that she probably wouldn't see him again. Still, a small hope lingered in her heart, the same hope that kept her going during the toughest times. Around noon, a young woman came into the restaurant with a polite smile. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you the waitress who helped a man in a suit last night?" The waitress paused, surprised. She nodded slowly, unsure of what to expect. The woman handed her a small envelope. "He asked me to give this to you," she said. The waitress took it hesitantly, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a note. "Thank you for your kindness. You have made a real difference. Please know that your act has inspired others." The words brought tears to her eyes. She held the note close to her chest, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't about money or gifts. It was the acknowledgement that her small act had mattered. She placed the note on the counter and returned to her work, but now with a lighter heart. Every smile she shared with customers, every plate she carried, felt a little easier. By mid-afternoon, the restaurant had become quiet again. The lunch rush had ended, leaving her with a few customers lingering, chatting quietly. She took a moment to rest, leaning against the counter, and thought about her own life. Bills were piling up, and her savings were almost non-existent. But for the first time in a long while, she felt seen. She realized that one small choice, helping someone in need, could ripple far beyond her imagination. Meanwhile, the CEO had made several calls. He had gathered a group of successful entrepreneurs and millionaires who shared his vision of giving back in meaningful ways. "I want to change one life, and I want it to matter," he told them. He described the waitress, her courage, her selflessness, and her last $10 choice. They were inspired. Each of them agreed that her act deserved more than just recognition. It deserved an opportunity to transform her life. As the day went on, the waitress finished her shift, preparing to head home. She had no idea what was coming. She walked through the streets, feeling the familiar ache in her feet and the hunger in her stomach. Yet her heart carried a lightness from the note she had received. She thought about the man and wondered if their paths would ever cross again. Little did she know, that simple act of kindness was about to set off a chain of events that would change everything. By evening, the CEO and his group were ready. They had planned to meet her, but not in a grand way. They wanted it to be personal, direct, and heartfelt. They discussed how to approach her, how to show that they were serious about helping without overwhelming her. They wanted her to feel the impact of her choice, to know that her selflessness had not gone unnoticed and that it had inspired a community of people willing to give back. As the waitress closed the restaurant for the night, she felt a strange sense of anticipation, though she didn't know why. She walked the familiar route home, the streets now quiet and glistening under streetlights. Her thoughts drifted back to the man and the note, imagining what life would be like if more people acted with the same courage and kindness. She smiled to herself, feeling a small hope that maybe, just maybe, the world could be different. When she reached her apartment, she sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the events of the last 24 hours and felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and inspiration. She had no idea that soon, her life would take a turn that was beyond anything she could have imagined. The CEO and the group of millionaires were preparing to meet her, ready to offer opportunities, guidance, and support that could change everything for her and her family. As she drifted off to sleep that night, her heart was full of gratitude for having chosen kindness, even when it cost her. She didn't know how, but she felt that something extraordinary was about to happen, all because she had taken a small step to help a stranger in need. The next morning, the waitress woke up feeling a mixture of tiredness and curiosity. The events of the past 2 days still lingered in her mind, especially the note from the man she had helped. It was strange how a small act of kindness could make her feel so hopeful, even when life was still difficult. She got ready for work, tying her apron and slipping on her shoes, the same routine as always, but with an extra spark of anticipation she couldn't quite explain. As she walked toward the restaurant, she noticed unusual activity outside. A few sleek cars were parked along the street, cars she had only seen in magazines or on television. The drivers stepped out, checking their watches and looking around like they were waiting for someone. The waitress walked past them, trying not to pay too much attention, thinking it was probably just a coincidence. Yet, a small feeling of curiosity kept growing inside her. When she entered the restaurant, she noticed something different immediately. The air felt heavier, as if something significant was about to happen. She greeted the morning customers, took orders, and carried plates with her usual smile, but she couldn't stop glancing toward the door. The unusual silence and the attention she seemed to be drawing made her nervous. Something told her this was not going to be a normal day. By late morning, the door opened, and a group of people entered, all dressed sharply, carrying themselves with a quiet confidence. The waitress froze for a moment, realizing they were looking straight at her. One of them spoke first. "Are you the waitress who helped a man in a suit yesterday evening?" She nodded slowly, unsure of what to say. Her heart began to beat faster. One by one, the people approached, each extending a polite hand or offering a small smile. "We've heard about your kindness," one of them said. "We want to meet you." The waitress felt a mix of confusion, nervousness, and disbelief. She had helped a stranger, yes, but she had never imagined this would lead to something like this. The man she had helped appeared in the group, looking calm but with a warm expression that immediately put her at ease. "I'm glad we finally meet again," he said softly. "I want you to understand how much your act meant to me." He motioned toward the others. "These are friends and colleagues of mine. They are people who care about making a difference. We want to offer you something, but first, we want to tell you why we are here." The waitress listened carefully as they explained that they had been inspired by her courage and kindness. Each person in the group was a successful entrepreneur or millionaire, and they had seen many acts of generosity in their lives. Yet, her selfless choice, helping a stranger when she had so little, stood out as something rare and remarkable. They wanted to support her, to show that kindness could be rewarded not just in words, but in actions that could transform lives. As they spoke, the waitress felt a mixture of emotions: gratitude, surprise, and even a little fear. She wasn't used to attention like this, and the idea that these successful people wanted to help her was almost overwhelming. She tried to stay calm, listening intently, but her hands shook slightly as she held the edge of the counter. The CEO explained that they had come together to offer support in meaningful ways. It wasn't just about giving money. It was about creating opportunities, providing mentorship, and helping her build a life that she had always dreamed of but thought was out of reach. They wanted to help her pay off debts, secure housing, and even explore education or career paths that could bring stability and growth. The waitress couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had never imagined that a simple act of kindness could lead to such a profound impact. Her mind raced with questions and excitement, but she tried to remain composed. I don't know what to say," she finally whispered. "I was just trying to help. I never expected any of this." One of the millionaires smiled gently. "That is exactly why we admire you. You acted without expectation, without thinking of reward. That is the kind of person we want to support. Someone who shows the true meaning of compassion and humanity." The waitress felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had faced so many struggles, working tirelessly to make ends meet. Yet her small gesture had created ripples that she never could have imagined. She looked at each person in the room, seeing kindness reflected in their eyes, and felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. As the conversation continued, they began discussing practical ways to help her. They asked about her immediate needs, her long-term goals, and what dreams she had quietly held onto. The waitress spoke softly about her struggles with bills, the challenges of supporting herself, and her hopes for a better future. The group listened attentively, taking notes and offering ideas that could help her achieve stability and growth. One of them suggested arranging a meeting with a financial advisor to plan for her future. Another offered to connect her with educational programs that could help her advance in her career. Others discussed providing housing support and even small investments in skills she wanted to develop. Every suggestion was carefully considered, showing genuine interest in her well-being rather than simply offering money. The waitress felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. For the first time, she realized that her life could change, not overnight, but steadily, with guidance, support, and opportunities she had never imagined. The CEO stepped closer, looking at her with warmth and sincerity. "Your kindness created this moment," he said softly. "It started with one small choice, and now we want to help you build a future that reflects your courage and generosity." As the meeting concluded, the waitress felt a mixture of disbelief and excitement. She had gone from a simple act of helping a stranger to being surrounded by people ready to change her life. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. She realized that sometimes, the smallest gestures could lead to the greatest changes, and that true kindness could ripple far beyond what anyone could see. The visitors left her with a clear plan of support, a schedule for meetings and guidance, and the reassurance that they would remain involved as she navigated the changes ahead. The waitress sat back, holding the note from the man she had helped, and felt tears of gratitude slide down her cheeks. She had never expected this, and yet, here she was, standing at the beginning of a new chapter in her life. As she walked home that evening, her heart was light and full of hope. She thought about the past, the struggles, and the sacrifices she had made, and realized that her choice to help a stranger had created something extraordinary. She looked at the streets, the lights reflecting in puddles from the earlier rain, and felt a quiet joy. Life had given her a surprise, and it had reminded her that one act of kindness, done sincerely, could change everything. The following morning, the waitress woke up with a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had gone to bed thinking about the events of the previous day, and now the reality of what was coming began to sink in. Today, she would meet the group of people who had gathered because of her small act of kindness, the people who were ready to help her change her life in ways she never imagined. She dressed carefully, making sure she looked presentable, though her clothes were still modest and worn. She wanted to be herself and not appear different from who she truly was. As she walked to the restaurant, she noticed the cars parked outside again, sleek and polished, unlike anything she normally saw in her neighborhood. Her heart raced as she approached the door. When she stepped inside, the group was already there, waiting for her. They smiled warmly, and the atmosphere felt calm yet electric, like something significant was about to happen. The CEO stepped forward and greeted her with a reassuring nod. "We are very glad to see you again," he said. "Today, we want to show you how much your kindness matters and how it can change lives, starting with yours." The waitress listened carefully as they began to explain their plan. They had come together with a single goal: to offer her opportunities and guidance that could help her achieve stability, security, and growth. This wasn't just a one-time gift. It was a chance to create a future where she could thrive, learn, and even help others along the way. They spoke gently but confidently, showing that their support was genuine and well thought out. They first discussed her immediate needs. Her rent, bills, and basic expenses had been a constant source of stress. The group assured her that they would help cover these costs, giving her a chance to breathe without fear. The waitress felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a burden she had carried silently for so long. For the first time, she realized that she could take a step back from constant worry and focus on building a better future. Next, they talked about education and skill development. The waitress had always dreamed of learning more, of gaining knowledge that could help her grow professionally. The group offered to connect her with courses, training programs, and mentors who could guide her in areas she wanted to explore. They emphasized that learning was not just for career growth, but also for personal fulfillment, helping her become more confident and independent. Housing was another area they addressed. They understood the stress of living in a small, rented apartment, and they wanted to provide her with options for a safer, more comfortable living environment. They presented a few possibilities, from modest apartments to supportive housing arrangements, explaining how each option could give her security and peace of mind. The waitress felt tears welling up as she imagined having a home where she didn't have to constantly worry about the next month's rent. Then came the mentorship and guidance aspect. The CEO explained that their goal was not just to provide material support, but also to help her develop the skills, confidence, and mindset to navigate life successfully. Each member of the group offered to mentor her in areas where they had expertise: finance, business, communication, and personal growth. The waitress realized that this was an opportunity to learn from people who had achieved success in life, not for selfish reasons but to guide and uplift someone in need. The conversation turned to the bigger picture. They spoke about dreams and long-term goals, encouraging her to imagine a future beyond immediate survival. They asked about the passions she had set aside and the ideas she had never voiced. The waitress shared her quiet wish to help others, to make a difference in small ways, just as she had done with the man she helped. The group listened intently, nodding and taking notes, showing that they valued her voice and her vision. At one point, the CEO reached out and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your kindness started this journey," he said. "Now it's time to let it grow into something larger, not just for you, but for everyone you touch. You have a gift, and we want to help you use it to create a life you can be proud of." The waitress felt a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. She had never imagined that helping a stranger would lead to this. Her life, which had been full of struggle, worry, and uncertainty, was suddenly opening up in ways she had never dared to dream. She looked around at the faces of the group, seeing genuine care and kindness, and realized that this moment was real. It wasn't a fantasy or a dream. It was happening because she had acted with compassion. They concluded the meeting by outlining a plan. The support would be gradual and steady, allowing her to adjust and grow without feeling overwhelmed. She would meet with mentors regularly, receive guidance on financial and personal growth, and have the security of knowing her immediate needs were covered. The focus was not just on solving problems but on equipping her with tools to build a sustainable, fulfilling life. As the group left the restaurant, they gave her a final piece of advice. Continue being kind, continue helping others when she could, and always remember that her choices mattered. The waitress sat quietly for a moment, absorbing everything that had happened. Her heart was full, her mind buzzing with possibilities, and her eyes glistened with tears of hope. Walking home that evening, she felt a new sense of purpose. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The rainy night, the decision to help a stranger, the small note of gratitude. Each step, each choice had led to this extraordinary moment. She realized that kindness was not just a fleeting gesture but a powerful force that could change lives in ways she had never imagined. As she reached her apartment, she paused to look at the city lights. She thought about her life, the struggles she had faced, and the dreams she had tucked away. Now, those dreams felt within reach. She knew the road ahead would require effort, courage, and resilience, but she also knew that she was not alone. She had a network of people who believed in her, who wanted to see her succeed, and who were willing to guide her every step of the way. That night, as she lay in bed, she felt a deep sense of gratitude and hope. Her small act of helping a stranger had sparked a chain of events that would change her life forever. She realized that even in the darkest times, a single choice, a single act of kindness, could create ripples that reached far beyond what anyone could see. She fell asleep with a sense of peace, ready to embrace the new chapter that awaited her. The next morning, the waitress woke up feeling a sense of excitement she had never felt before. The previous days had changed everything, and now she understood that her life was no longer confined to struggle and worry. She got ready carefully, feeling more confident and hopeful. Even the small details, like choosing her clothes and tying her hair, felt different, because she knew that today, her life could take another big step forward. As she walked to the restaurant, she noticed the same sleek cars parked outside again. But this time, they didn't make her nervous. Instead, she felt anticipation. She knew something important was about to happen, and her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and gratitude. When she entered the restaurant, she saw the group of people waiting for her, smiling warmly. The CEO was there as well, standing with a calm and kind expression, the same expression that had made her feel at ease the first time she met him. "Good morning," he said softly, as if sharing a secret. "Today is the day we want to start making real changes in your life, and we hope you are ready." The waitress nodded, trying to steady her voice. She had never imagined that helping a stranger would lead to such extraordinary moments. Her heart beat faster as they began to talk about concrete steps for the future. They had prepared a plan that included education, career guidance, financial support, and personal development. Each part was designed to help her grow gradually, giving her the tools to build a life she had once only dreamed of. The CEO explained that they wanted her to feel empowered, not dependent. "We are here to give you opportunities and guidance," he said, "but the real change will come from you. Your courage, your kindness, and your choices will shape your future." The waitress listened intently, absorbing every word. She thought about her past, the nights she had gone hungry, the bills she had struggled to pay, and the constant worry she had carried. All of that seemed so distant now, replaced by a sense of hope and possibility. She realized that her small act of kindness, helping a man in need, had sparked this moment. It had shown that even in hardship, A person's choices could create extraordinary ripples. The group began discussing opportunities that would help her grow. They offered to connect her with mentors who could teach her skills in areas she was interested in, provide financial advice, and guide her through education programs. They also spoke about giving her a stable living environment, a place where she could feel safe and secure, free from the stress she had carried for so long. As they spoke, the waitress felt a sense of empowerment. This was not charity. It was an opportunity for her to take control of her life with support from people who truly cared. She felt tears prick her eyes, not out of sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that someone had seen her heart, her courage, and her humanity. For the first time, she felt truly valued. One of the millionaires spoke next, sharing a personal story about how small acts of kindness had shaped his own life. He explained that helping others and being helped in return were both powerful ways to create a meaningful life. The waitress listened closely, inspired by the sincerity in his voice. She realized that life was not just about surviving, but about connecting with others, sharing kindness, and creating opportunities where they were needed most. The CEO then outlined a practical plan. They would start by securing her immediate needs, covering bills and providing housing support. Next, she would be connected with education and skill-building programs. Mentorship meetings would be scheduled regularly, helping her develop confidence, knowledge, and independence. And finally, they encouraged her to continue being kind and to share her story with others, inspiring more people to act with compassion. The waitress felt a deep sense of gratitude. She remembered the rainy night when she had chosen to help a man she didn't even know. That simple choice had led to this extraordinary moment, showing her that no act of kindness is ever wasted. She realized that she had not only helped someone else, but she had also opened the door to her own transformation. As the group prepared to leave, the CEO smiled at her. "Remember," he said gently, "this is just the beginning. Your journey is yours to shape, and we are here to help you along the way. Keep your heart open, continue your kindness, and never doubt the impact you can have on the world." The waitress watched them leave, feeling a sense of calm and joy. She sat quietly for a moment, reflecting on how far she had come. Her heart was full of hope, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. She thought about the nights of struggle, the challenges she had faced, and the small choices that had brought her here. Each step, each decision had led to this moment of transformation. That evening, she walked home under the soft glow of streetlights. The city seemed brighter, as if reflecting her own sense of possibility. She thought about the people she had met, the support she had received, and the opportunities that awaited her. Her life was no longer defined by hardship alone. It was now filled with hope, guidance, and a chance to grow in ways she had never imagined. When she reached her apartment, she looked around at the familiar walls and furniture, seeing them in a new light. The space that had once felt confining now felt like a starting point, a place where her new life could begin. She smiled to herself, realizing that she had the power to shape her own future with the support she had been given. Before going to bed, she held the note from the man she had helped the first night. She read it again, feeling the warmth of those simple words. "Your kindness will not be forgotten." Now, she understood that the note was just the beginning of a much larger story. Her kindness had sparked a chain of events that would continue to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. She fell asleep with a sense of gratitude and hope, ready to embrace the future. The journey ahead would not be without challenges, but she knew that she was no longer alone. She had a network of people who believed in her, opportunities to grow, and the knowledge that her choices had real power. Her life had been transformed by a single act of kindness, proving that even in the smallest gestures, there can be extraordinary results. In the days that followed, the waitress began to see changes in her life. She met with mentors who guided her, learned new skills, and started building a sense of financial security. She began to dream again, thinking about goals she had once considered impossible. Every step she took was supported by the network of people who had believed in her, and every step reinforced the lesson she had learned. That kindness and courage, even in small doses, could create ripples far beyond what anyone could see. Her life was no longer just about surviving. It was about growing, giving, and inspiring. She continued to work at the restaurant, but now with a renewed purpose and sense of joy. Every smile she shared, every meal she served, was part of a larger journey, a journey that had begun with a single act of selflessness on a rainy night. And as she looked to the future, she knew that this was just the beginning of a life filled with hope, compassion, and endless possibilities.